You just paid, let's say, $300 for a flight. Here's something strange. On that ticket, the airline probably made almost nothing. On some flights, they actually lose money flying you across the country. Which raises an obvious question. If airlines barely make money selling you the seat, how are the biggest ones worth tens of billions of dollars? Where does the money actually come from? Because it's not the flying. The most valuable thing an airline owns isn't its planes, or its routes, or even its pilots. It's something invisible, something it prints out of thin air and sells to banks. Once you see it, you'll never look at a boarding pass the same way. Let's start with the dirty secret of the airline industry. Flying people is a genuinely awful business. The margins are razor thin. In a good year, the whole global industry makes something like 3 to 5 cents of profit on every dollar. And in a bad year, it lights billions on fire. Warren Buffett once joked that if a capitalist had been at Kitty Hawk when the first plane took off, he should have shot it down to save future investors their money. Airlines have gone bankrupt over and over. The big American names have almost all filed for bankruptcy at least once. The seat you're sitting in? In economy, the airline might make a few dollars, or nothing, or fly you at a loss just to fill the plane. So if the flying doesn't make the money, something else does, and it's hiding in your wallet. Here's the trick. Remember how a bank creates money by typing it into existence? An airline does the same thing, but with miles. Frequent flyer miles aren't a thank you gift. They're a currency the airline invents at basically zero cost, and then sells for real cash. And who buys them? Banks. When you get a credit card that earns airline miles, the bank has to buy those miles from the airline, by the billions, to hand out as your sign-up bonus and your rewards. The airline gets real dollars today for miles it conjured for free. This is enormous. Delta's partnership with American Express alone pays Delta billions of dollars a year. The airline has said it expects around $7 billion a year from that one credit card deal. $7 billion from selling miles to a bank. That's not a side hustle. For a lot of airlines, the loyalty program is the main event. So the mental model flips. An airline isn't a transport company with a rewards program bolted on. It's a rewards and credit card business that happens to own planes to give those miles value. If that sounds like an exaggeration, the year 2020 proved it in the most dramatic way possible. The planes stopped, borders closed, airlines were burning cash with almost no passengers. The flying business went to nearly zero. So they needed emergency loans, fast. And what did they put up as collateral? The most valuable thing they owned to convince lenders? Not the fleet, not the airport slots, the loyalty program. United pledged its Mileage Plus program to borrow billions, and in the paperwork, that program was valued at around $22 billion. At the time, that was more than the entire airline was worth on the stock market. American Airlines did the same with AAdvantage, valued somewhere between $18 and $30 billion. Read that again. The frequent flyer program was worth more than the airline that ran it. The planes were almost a side effect. The crown jewel was the miles. Miles are the big one, but they're not the only place airlines quietly make money. Second, fees. Checked bags, seat selection, priority boarding, change fees, extra legroom. Individually, they feel small. Added up across the industry, ancillary fees pull in tens of billions of dollars a year, often at almost pure profit. Third, the front of the plane. That curtain isn't just about status. A handful of business and first-class seats can bring in as much revenue as the entire economy cabin behind them. Economy fills the plane. The premium seats and the cargo in the belly are where a single flight actually turns a profit. So a full flight is really 3 businesses stacked together. A low-margin economy cabin, a high-margin premium cabin, and a mile printing machine that pays off every time you swipe your card on the ground. Now the whole thing makes sense. Why does an airline fly you across the country for less than a nice dinner? Because the cheap seat isn't really the product. It's the bait. It keeps you loyal, keeps you earning miles, keeps that credit card in your pocket, and that card is the actual money machine. You are not really the customer. In a lot of ways, you're the product being sold. Your spending, your loyalty, your data, to the banks buying all those miles. The flight is just what makes the miles feel worth having. So what do you do with this? 2 things. 1, those miles aren't free money. Their cost is baked into the card fees and the interest, which the heavy spenders and the people carrying a balance pay for. If you pay in full and use the perks, you're on the winning side of that trade. If you carry a balance chasing points, the bank and the airline are both winning off you. And 2, the big picture. Next time a company gives you free points, ask who's actually buying them and what they're buying. Because an airline taught us the ultimate lesson in how money really works. Sometimes the product you're paying for is just the thing that makes the real product valuable. So, 3 things to remember. Airlines barely profit from the seat. The flying is close to break even. The real money is miles sold to banks, fees, and premium cabins. And the loyalty program can be worth more than the entire airline. You're not buying a flight, you're feeding a bank.